Welcome to this video. Discover and learn to prove the lost advanced civilization. Uh, so in this video you will see clearly that you are able to discover and prove the lost advanced civilization or civilizations that also could be understood as Atlantis and Mu, but then a more extended Atlantis and Mu, because it is about there's enough evidence that it's a global or near global civilization, not some island or or regional thing. Uh, we we will start out with one workout that is we will work with Y-DNA haplogroup R. The abbreviation of Y haplogroup is YHBR, and we will try to always explicitly tell the subclade in order to avoid confusion. For example, here you see haplogroup R, but there is R1 that is a root, and R1b is a child of the root, and the root is a more or less theoretical child of the larger group R. So what matters for us is the root. There is a root. This is some extension of the root, some extension. The concentration is here, around the Great Lakes. So this is a root, and there is no root anywhere else. So even if you look where you would expect the ancient North Eurasians, you see it's R1b, and this R1b is relatively recent. It's roughly 5,000 years ago. Um, so the root, R1, is prehistorical. R1b is roughly 5,000 years ago. Is certainly not as old as R1, which is prehistorical, over 20,000 years for sure. And this one around 5,000 years. David Reich, Ancient DNA Research, shows that there is still population turnover 4,500 years ago. That's in fact the one that took over the population that built Stonehenge. Stonehenge is taken over by this group. So 4,500 years ago. Certainly not so old as the root, over 20,000 years, sure. The ancient um, Eurasian, the ancient North Eurasians, which were a root as well, are have died out long before these population turnover events, long before 5,000. So they are not the source. They were here somewhere, somewhere close to Lake Baikal, and they are not the parents or ancestors of this one that is too recent. This root was a very isolated case, find, and it was over 20,000 years old, and it was was about isolated cases, and they died out. So repeating, this is R2, cannot give rise to R1b. So while this is indeed a prehistoric root, it doesn't matter for all these descendants, and nor for the African descendant. Um, so this is a root. It doesn't matter in our picture, and the ancient root, the ancient R1 prehistoric, also over 20,000 years, is not even depicted here because it was about isolated cases and they died out. Some, the ones that defend the, the the crossing of the Beringia land bridge, it's close, ones that defend it and arrive in the Americas. Some claim that this is where this root comes from the ancient North Eurasians. But that is not the case for a number of reasons. First of all, they stopped to defend this thesis, so they consensus has its reasons. We claim the reason is that even if it were, it never populated the Americas because Q, haplogroup Q, is closely related to R, is much older than R. Try to find Q. This is Q. So you see that in the Americas, Q is much more important than R. It's only R here. That's why it's in a lower frequency here, because here is the R and the C. So you see that it's close to 100% Q, especially in South and Central America. You also see that it spread pretty much all over the world, which is very exceptional, which is characteristic for the ancestor. On several occasions we claim the Amorites are the ancestors of all humans. And so anyhow, in this context, Q is older than R, so it doesn't make sense to try to explain that these isolated cases of R populated the Americans with the Amerindians. It doesn't work. And in fact, even consensus stopped to defend this thesis because the DNA, this R1, cannot explain the dominant haplogroup, which is Q, which I showed just a minute ago. Blood group O is another ancestral marker. It's not a haplogroup, it's a blood group, but it's also an ancestral marker that is easy to understand. You see that close to 100% in South and Central America, where we claim to be the ancestors of all humans. It's close to 100%, and haplogroup blood group O, blood type, blood group is the same thing. It's close to 100%, and it's a recessive blood group. So pure blood group O, as is the case, can only come from pure blood group O. And nowhere in the world outside the Americas there is pure blood group O. Just here in the legend, nowhere, nowhere. In fact, like here is, while it's a dominant blood group in general, it's like 50-60% here. It's a little bit higher in Africa. It's between 70 and 80. This is probably the case because by the currents, Africa quite early received out of Americans uh, rather archaic, certainly not R, uh, um, but that's a little bit too far. So also blood group O is a proof that the ancestor of all 8 billion modern humans comes from the Americas. Some markers that we don't discuss in this video point to the Amazon forest. So anyhow, from the blood group O, we learn that South and Central America is the ancestor of all humans. From R, we learn that this region, this region, this region, and here, today Mexico, Olmecs were there, uh, are the ancestors of uh, the R, the R descendants, R1b, R1a, R1b, R1a, R1b, in the rest of the world. So it's not high frequency here in Australia, Indonesia, and at this time, 5,000 years ago, Sahul and Sundaland do not exist anymore because of the rising of the ocean level with 120 meters. Thank you for now. Hope to see you in the next video. Bye.